Welcome back to Nzone Focus. Our guest on the programme is Sue Bradford. Let's talk a bit about your personal life. You mentioned your son Danny earlier on, who was a suicide victim. That's every parent's worst nightmare, isn't it?
Yeah, and sadly, of course, it's quite a common experience in our country because so many of our young people do commit suicide.
How do you come to terms with something like that?
You don't. I mean, I don't find it easy to talk about, and I don't think that. I don't see how you ever can come to terms with it. But you do have to find a way of reconciling and not living with anger. And just remembering your son.
One of the things that when I read through what had happened, one of the things that came across was that actually the system treated you really shoddily. It was you didn't find out.
Well, they treated him really shoddily, and then they treated us shoddily as well. He should never have died, and of course that anger fueled on top of the sadness and the fact we didn't know for 2 weeks that he was dead, that no one traced him. I mean, it was a terrible, terrible incident. And there was a whole review done of it, but we didn't keep following through. I didn't want to become consumed by the anger over that. But what I did try to do when I came to Parliament was I did become the mental health spokesperson for the Green Party for 9 years. And I felt, well, that was useful because I could give a voice in the mental health area that perhaps is not heard so strongly.
Because you had that personal experience.
Yes.
Again, that takes us back to you have experiences that so many MPs don't.
That's right.
Don't have.
And I think they're often worth more than experience of business. They talk about, well, everything that a business person or a lawyer brings to Parliament. Well, of course, they bring lots of skills, but I also think the sort of background I've got is very useful there as well.
Because you work very closely with your husband, Bill, he's set up the people centres with him.
Well, we did it, yeah.
And you're quite a powerful couple between you, aren't you? It's a force to be reckoned with, the Bradford family.
For better or worse, some would say.
Family is important to you.
Absolutely. It's the most important thing. Always has been. And I mean, even long before I had children, because I've been active in left-wing politics since I was really young, not long before I first got arrested, I used to look around and see some of, particularly the men with families who were in left-wing politics, and really I felt almost abandoned their families, and they were the heroes of the working class or heroes of the struggle, but what would be happening for their wives and children would not be such a pretty thing. And from that early age I thought, if I go on in this life, I must never be like that. I've always got to put my family first, and none of us are perfect, and I'm totally open to criticism, but I've always tried to do that. But of course with the wonderful support of Bill, because going off to Parliament or going off to do political work, you do leave your family behind quite a lot. So without his support it would not have been possible.
Because one of the interesting things I found through the whole smacking debate and the furore there, I mean, we spoke to people like Family First and so on.
Yes.
And the thing that really came across was that, I mean, the number of times I've sat in this chair and spoken to people from different sides, and they all say the same thing. They all say it's about good parenting. It's just an expression of how that parenting, comes across.
That's right.
So, when you're dealing with let's talk about Family First and Bob McCoskrie, who you're often put up against each other, and yet I know you get on really well as friends, and yet you find yourself in these adversarial positions. Was it hard? Could you see where he was coming from when he was talking about a parent's feeling that the state shouldn't interfere with the way they discipline their children? Could you see his point of view even if you disagreed with it?
Sure. I mean, I've been debating people like Bob and Larry Baldock and many others for 4.5 years now, all over the country and in many different situations. I understand where they're coming. Well, I'm pretty sure I understand where they're coming from. It's just in this whole debate, I just think there is a very clear divide, and that's the divide between people like Bob and Larry, who think that the most important thing is that the parent has the right to bring up their children as they see fit, including the use of reasonable physical discipline. And I understand what they're saying, I just don't agree with it. And the people like me and all the people on our side of the debate who think the most important thing is that every baby and child deserves to grow up free from violence and to have the same protection from violence that the law gives adults. It's just a fundamental ideological, religious, spiritual, psychological, cultural divide, and I can't see any way across that divide.
But do you think the fact that the debate has happened has been a good thing, or has it divided people who should be working together?
Oh, I think the debate's been fantastic, and on the darkest nights of it, when I thought we were going to lose it politically, I thought at least we've had the debate. Because it's brought the issue much more out in the open, and people, of course, have engaged with it hugely, have thought about it, and every little piece of research that comes out now is showing us more and more that increasingly parents and grandparents are not using physical discipline or are using it less, and every little shift like that, from my point of view, is a really good thing, and to continue to try and move towards a culture which doesn't accept assault on children as an everyday fact that so many kids have to live with.
I think what upset many people on both sides was when you were actually threatened with physical violence yourself. Was that frightening?
Yep. Yeah. Especially in 2007 at the peak of it, when there was a lot of abusive correspondence and the SIFS Watch website stuff that happened. I just felt how awful that in New Zealand we should have this kind of politics, and that's why when it just started to happen, nowhere near as badly, but it just started to happen about this year around the referendum a few months ago, and that's why I kind of blew the whistle on it. I thought, okay, I am telling, we will go to the media, we'll tell the cops, we're not just going to stay quiet, even though, I know as an MP you have to be thick-skinned, and you have to, in a way you just have to accept it, and I do accept it, but I think that it's a mistake just to let it go quietly and let them think that they're intimidating you.
Yeah. So what do we do now? What are you going to do with yourself?
I hope to allow a little bit of space and time to let that unfold, but I'm really open to different opportunities. I hope that I can do some different things. I'd love to have maybe a column or a show, on a paper or something on radio. I'd love to do a little bit of that kind of work. Maybe thinking about possibly doing something on the academic side, but also I need to do paid work, and of course I will continue to be politically active.
What about the Auckland mayoralty? Is that attractive?
No.
Because you did stand. You stood before,
I stood for the Auckland mayoralty, but that was just Auckland.
Yeah.
And of course the Auckland super city, and the issue I've been very engaged with, is much bigger. That's a huge job. And I really think that it would be preferable to have someone with experience of being a mayor of part of Auckland. And then at this stage, I'm supporting Len Brown. I think he's great.
So we haven't seen the last of you yet.
You certainly haven't.
So it's been great to have you on the programme. Thank you very much indeed.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Well, we'll be back next week with another programme. Do join us then. For now, from all of us on the team, bye for now.